Welcome to session 7 of my virtual book tour for my book, $1 Billion B2B Ecommerce. I wrote this book to give B2B companies a playbook for their digital transformation. Today is session 7. We're going to be talking about user experience. You can find out more about the book at billiondollarb2becommerce.com. And the book is also available on Amazon.com in paperback, audiobook, and ebook format. Before we go much further, I want to say thank you to our sponsors, particularly our platinum sponsor, Elastic Path. So as I mentioned, we're going to be talking today about creating an online experience. I have a lot of sessions we've covered through the summer, and a lot of great content, really a lot of fantastic speakers we've had. We've covered everything from leadership and alignment through to managing channel conflict and using digital marketing. All of those sessions are available on demand now. Our sessions today and going forward, our last session will air at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time and then be available on demand. So today we're going to be talking about creating a successful online user experience. As my guest today, I have Matt Wingham from Cardinal Health, one of the global leaders in healthcare. And we also have Darin, Chief Strategy Officer from Elastic Path. I'll introduce them both in just a minute. But first, I want to give us a little bit of context. You know, I talk about creating an online experience as stealing smart from B2C. And it really is a lot about meeting the customer's expectation based on their consumer experiences. You as a B2B company need to deliver that. But you also have to accommodate traditional B2B workflows. So I'm going to provide some context in a few slides, and then we're going to get into our fireside chat. So today's buyer is a digital or Amazon native. It is, in fact, many folks don't realize that millennials, those born between 1980 and 2000, will in fact be 75% of the global workforce by 2025. And these folks are increasingly moving into B2B procurement roles. And these folks are online natives. In fact, last year they made 60% of their purchases online, up from 47% in 2017. Folks, that means that they make more of their purchases online than offline. And these are becoming your buyers. 2/3 of millennials make half or more of their online purchases, guess where? On Amazon. And 97%, almost 100%, use Amazon for at least part of their online shopping. And guess what? They expect a similar experience from you in terms of your e-commerce. This group is, I like to say silently, but really quickly becoming the majority of your buyers. So as we talk about and think about digital experience, this is the bar you have to meet. So what is user experience? Well, this is a definition from that authority on the internet, Wikipedia, but I think it sort of sets the context well. And then we'll get into some practical examples so I can really hammer it home for you. Defining user experience. User experience, it's also called UX in the industry. It refers to a person's emotions and attitudes about using a particular product, system, or service. It includes the practical, experiential, effective, meaningful, and valuable aspects of human-computer interactions and product ownership. Sounds very complicated. But really what it means is you're delivering an experience that connects with your customer and makes it easy for them to learn about your business using digital channels. Let me give you some examples. It's not this. This is unfortunately what many B2B companies consider an online experience which is adequate. And quite frankly, it's a shame. But so many companies really just sort of add a plug-in to their ERP system where the customer needs to go in and look for the specific part number. There's no pictures, there's no images. This is not state-of-the-art user experience. This is more like HAL 9000, if you recall that movie. What really means is this. So many of you probably know Granger. I use the example of Granger in the book and other places because Granger has invested early and significantly in their online user experience and e-commerce in general. This is a picture of their homepage. Granger gets close to 60% of their revenue from e-commerce transactions. And as you think about user experience, It's really meeting the consumer-like expectations of your B2B buyer through your B2B online experience. In the example here of Granger, you see that it reflects a consumer-like experience when you land on their homepage. User experience also includes things like navigation. You see the elements here under products, all products, and you see drill downs into abrasives and electrical and lab supplies. This is a consumer-like experience in terms of the navigation. This is called mega navigation. Similarly, when you get into product categories, you can see on this image on the left side, there are drill downs into specific things that the customer is looking for. When you think about many B2B companies and their product assortment, they're very large, hundreds of thousands, in some cases millions, and we'll talk about this with Matt a little bit later from Cardinal. The elements that you need to drill down and create a product selection which is manageable for the customer is one of the key elements of user experience for e-commerce. And then site search is another very important component. In this example, the user is typing the word floor, and below that word floor, you can see suggestions that are written out in text format. You can see visual examples here as well, being suggested to the user. One of the central theses of my book is about making the buyer's job easier, and these paths, helping the customer to get to what they need very quickly, are critical. And if you think about the example of Amazon, with 600 million products on it, literally, they have set the bar for getting the customer to their product quickly. And that's important for you as well. Another great example that I use in the book is a company called Ergodyne. Ergodyne is using these same principles, and this is a picture of their homepage. Look at the consumer-like messaging that's being used here. 40% lighter, infinitely cooler, introducing the lightweight bump cap, scullers. Point here is they're using consumer-like messaging to reach the customer. This is a B2B site. Beautiful imagery. Look at their category pages. Beautiful imagery, merchandising language. These are foreign concepts to a lot of B2B companies. Remember that green screen I showed you a few minutes ago. Look on the left-hand side. You're able to navigate down into categories. These are the fundamental and foundational elements of user experience. Here's a picture of their product detail page. Notice the big, rich images, the rich title, the pricing clearly displayed, the description below. You can write a review on this product, see different images. It's not about knowing the exact SKU number of your product, never showing the customer a picture and hoping they order the right thing. These are consumer-like best practices, but it's only half the story. The other half of the story is making sure you're accommodating the B2B workflow needs of your customer. And we'll talk about that more in our fireside chat. The sad thing is most B2B sellers are not meeting the buyer's expectation. A study done last year in 2019 by Digital Commerce 360 revealed that only 7% of corporate buyers rate the B2B e-commerce sites they use as excellent. And what were the areas of deficiency? Well, they cited basic UX, user experience features such as lack of product images, inaccurate inventory, lack of sufficient product content, and other areas. So B2B is not here yet. The good news in this, of course, is if you do this well and right, you can leapfrog your competition and really meet your customers' needs where they're looking for you to do that. So what do you do about this? Well, I talk a lot about in the book about putting the customer first in the process, and this applies to user experience as much as it does about aligning your selling channels and other things. You need to understand the expectation of your customer, and the best in the business, including the folks we're going to talk to today, Matt and Cardinal, have put the customer at the center of the experience. They have them interviewed through the process of developing the user experience. They design it around their needs. This is critical, and I keep reminding everyone of this. Understand and deploy the best practices from B2C. Now, you don't want to reinvent the wheel here. You may want to have fun and get adventurous with what you want to do with your digital experience. There's foundational elements you do not want to do this with. There are certain things that the customer expects, things like intuitive navigation, as I showed you with Granger and Ergodyne. Search, which is easy and fast to use and returning relevant results. Product and category page elements. Web merchandising and personalizing the experience, recognizing the customer when they come to your website. Content management, how you're presenting content digitally and reinforce your authority in the business. Your shopping cart and checkout. There are very conventional steps here. Now, with B2B, you have things like buying on purchase order and other elements like that need to be accommodated as well, because your customers probably buy on credit terms with you. Account support and service, being able to access and self-service. Where is my order? Paying for invoices, paying down your credit line, things like that. And then payment methods are also extremely important. Accommodating different payment methods is a proven way to drive conversion from B2C, and it applies to B2B just as well. Seek to understand and make your transactional workflows, your traditional process, more efficient. Again, a second thesis in my book is making the buyer's job easier is the key to success here, and that applies across the board. We'll talk about that with Matt in just a moment. And finally, you need to get experience by your side. There are well-established conventions for this, and there are experts in this field. And user experience, folks, you need to put by your side with your technology team as you're building your e-commerce experiences. It's critical you do that. In the chapter in the book, I have a lot of detail around these different elements. I can't go through all of them today, but we're going to dive into some of the details in just a minute here with our guests. So y'all have met me. I'm Brian. In addition to writing this book, I'm also the managing partner of a company called Insiba. And at Insiba, we focus on helping manufacturers and brands and some distributors as well focus on bringing their products to Amazon and establishing a strategy and then executing that. And we have a practice focused on B2B as well. So you met me, and I'm so excited to have Matt Wingham join me today. Matt and I go back, gosh, I think 4 or 5 years at least, Matt. I've worked with Cardinal several times. Matt, you wanna introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Brian. Hi, everyone. My name is Matt Wingham. I work for Cardinal Health as Director of E-commerce within our medical business. So Cardinal Health, I think, as most folks are aware, but just to level set, is a global healthcare company. We primarily focus on distributing pharmaceutical and medical products to healthcare providers. We're a Fortune 15 company, and very much are focused on helping our healthcare providers service patients, and we take that and that set of values that go along with that very important. So I live, as I mentioned, within our medical business and have responsibility for delivering an e-commerce experience that helps our customers along their procurement needs for our medical customers.
That's awesome, Matt. Thank you. I'm so excited to dive into some of these concepts with you. And then Darin Archer. Darin, you have great experience. I love the fact that you're here too, because you've got both the perspective, from the software side, but you've lived this stuff too. Tell us about your background.
Thanks, Brian. I remember not too many years ago feeling like I wasn't quite as experienced or professional in this e-commerce space because I had all this non-traditional e-commerce experience. Much of it was B2B, and it seemed like you only got a lot of attention if you were the B2C person, right? Yeah. But it's definitely been a fun way to learn this. Yeah. So my background, I've done everything from selling telecom services online and software and high tech offerings and products that included traditional telesales and call center folks and sales reps, et cetera, in many of my prior roles. And then I've been on the vendor side trying to build solutions that would be a little bit more oriented to some of these use cases. And so I found myself, with ElasticPath as an example.
Awesome. Well, Darin and Matt, I'm so excited to have you guys. So guys, let's get into it a little bit. So Matt, you mentioned a little bit about Cardinal Health in your intro. Tell us a little more about, kind of where you guys have been, your journey a little bit in e-commerce. Where have you come from? Where are you today? And maybe a little bit more about where you all are on your digital transformation journey, because you've done a lot of investment.
Yeah, absolutely, Brian. Thanks. Yeah, so I started at Cardinal Health about 5 years ago, a little over 5 years ago, and I was hired to come in and reimagine, re-envision a new e-commerce experience that meets our medical customers' needs. And so we started down this journey really 5 years ago, and at the time we had two older legacy e-commerce sites. It's kind of funny, the black screen with the green text that you showed earlier, kind of the DOS prompt.
That wasn't a screenshot from your site.
That was not from our old site, but it wasn't too far off. So we had two old legacy experiences that really didn't meet our customers' needs. And to your points earlier, that's really where we started in our journey. Was we had to make sure we understand what our medical customers' needs are, what jobs are they trying to get done throughout the day. And in our case, we're servicing hospitals, non-acute settings like surgery centers, and we're servicing procurement professionals in those different facilities who are really tasked with procuring the right product at the right time at the right price. And so we keep those three pieces in mind as we think about our customers. So as we think about our journey, we started 5 years ago, really immersing ourselves in customer insights, understanding what our customers are trying to do. And then we started to design and build the experience based on those insights. And all along the way, we've had customers involved, whether it's from the start 5 years ago, where they were helping us understand their needs through our design concepts and usability testing, putting screens and designs in front of them and getting feedback on what they liked, what they didn't like, and making adjustments to make sure that when we did create the experience that it would resonate with our customers. So happy to say we launched our new experience, which is called Cardinal Health Market, in March of 2018. It's hard to believe it's been a little over 2 years. But we launched in March of 2018, and we've been working on improving the site. Each month we have new releases that go in, and we continue to, again, gain customer feedback. We have a power user group that we've formed that we meet with every 2 months to continue to look at not only providing feedback on what we've launched, but then also give us some guidance on additional enhancements that they would find value in. And we use that to influence our investments for upcoming years.
I love the fact that you guys have done such a good job with the customer feedback and creating that ongoing loop. I think it's just so critical to success. And Darin, I know you have some experience too working with Cardinal. I mean, it's over the years too. Anything you want to add?
Well, I was curious, Matt, I think a lot has changed this year. I think it's interesting. March 2018, you launched. 2 years later, probably that marketplace has got the most action it's seen in a long time. And, we are at this tipping point where I know from both the operator side and the vendor side, B2B is now actually number one focus in many regards over B2C. But, I like that you guys are doing a lot of stuff with the focus groups and the power users. How, have you seen some of this new customer engagement where, I had this example that I've told recently, the story where I had my dentist changed, right? And my dentist of nearly 20 years retired, very traditional office in San Francisco, managing their supply chain with a secretary, office manager, insurance broker, that called everyone, loved to have everything over faxes and that traditional paper process. New person came in, bought the office, and the new office manager came in, and she just immediately was like, if they don't have e-commerce, if I can't buy online, I'm not even going to bother with them, and we're going to change out vendors. And I imagine, like right now, it's kind of the fervor of everyone scrambling, trying to find things. Are you seeing some of these new entrants as well? Kind of going back to what Brian talked about with the millennials, that are suddenly kind of, having a shift where I could see some market share changes happening if you're not on top of it.
Yeah, absolutely, Darin. Yeah, we, with millennials coming into the workforce, we have seen a shift in underscoring the value of having an online experience that helps our customers and really meets those younger buyers wherever they are and whenever they want to or choose to interact with us. So that's definitely helping shape the experiences that we create. So what we're trying to do is, parse out the feedback that we get based on the type of customer, the demographic of the customer, and really dig in and, create experiences that resonate with the vast majority of the customers that are using our site. But we are starting to definitely see millennials start to enter into that procurement buying mode, and we're trying to stay close with them on understanding their needs and how we can deliver for them.
Do you have some of those folks in your customer advisory board? Do you aim to add some folks in that profile?
Yeah, we do, Brian. We try to get a good mix across the landscape of customers, whether it's by customer segment. So we have our acute and non-acute and some of our physician office customers, but then also demographic wise with age range, and experience. We aim for making sure we have some flexibility into that group. And the hard part is then taking all that feedback and figuring out how we distill it down to meaningful insights, and then which ones we want to act on and prioritize. That's the challenging part.
Yeah, no, I think the Cardinal Health is an interesting one to me, and Matt, I've collaborated with you guys over the years as well. But because I find it, a lot of folks then they look at some of these companies and they just think that you've got a couple major use cases that you're supporting. But you have, everything from that traditional procurement process to, even nurses reordering within facilities, but even doing some new business models where enabling some of your pharmacy partners, for example, right, where they end up kind of whitelisting or OEMing your e-commerce capabilities to then, further project and help improve their businesses with customers that are changing. So, is that channel, all these different channels, are you seeing, is the data starting to support some of this anecdotal evidence of, the changeover and people wanting to move from phone and fax to e-commerce?
Yeah, it's interesting. In my world, we have a large volume of EDI ordering that's going on. So we have actually over about 85%, a little over that, of the ordering that's going on the medical side that we're seeing is via EDI. And our e-commerce conversion and ordering is about 5%, so a very small percentage. But what that means is even those customers that are ordering via EDI, they come to our site and they're dependent on the site to research products and do a level of self-service that they can't do elsewhere. And as their prime distributor, we have to make sure we deliver good product experience for our customers and also good self-service capability. So it's good for us that we're an important key kind of cog in the procurement workflow for our customers, even though in many cases they're not actually converting on our site.
Right.
So we continue to look at that data and figure out how do we drive manual ordering that comes in through calls, through the phone, through fax. How do we drive that electronically, whether it's EDI or through e-commerce? Those are all areas that we continue to look at and figure out how we can, from a business perspective, drive the types of ordering we'd like to have, but then also meeting at the intersection of providing a good experience for our customers online.
And Matt, you talked about, I talk a lot in the book about that sort of consumer-like experience, right? And I think it kind of fits into this conversation here. What have you found? I mean, when you think about creating that experience and adopting things from B2C, right?
Yep.
What have you found to be the most impactful things? What have you guys done? What have you pulled from B2C?
Yeah, for us, it's a lot around the product experience. What I mean by that, if you look at some of our data, over 75% of our site visits include a product search. So we've had to make sure we're very, very good at providing relevant search results. And then when you add the scale of what we're looking at, we offer about 300,000 individual SKUs on our market site. And so when you look at 300,000 SKUs and the 75% of searching, we had to make sure that we have strong product content to help with the overall search experience. We employ things like type ahead search, which is very common in the B2C world. So we're guiding customers to what they're looking for as they enter each keystroke in the search bar. In the future, we're going to start looking at pulling some photography and imagery into that type ahead search to help customers additionally. So search is a big piece. Product content has been really important for us. And really just trying to find ways to make the ordering process and the research process fast for our customers, especially our non-acute customers. In many cases, you've got a person who is scrubbing in to help with a procedure. That person's also actually ordering products from us, and so speed and efficiency is important. So things like quick order is an important capability that we've adopted from the B2C world. Just to help our customers be able to purchase products more quickly.
Now, I was just say it's interesting you mentioned some of the imagery components piece there, because I think it sounds like you guys are probably already starting to look at image recognition, maybe some computer vision to translate that back to a SKU and help accelerate that purchase product. That was a use case I've seen more recently. My stint prior in the IT space, I got that request a lot. Can I have it in my hand? I don't know what the heck it is because I'm buying on behalf of someone else. Can I take a picture of it, right, with my smartphone, and then it'll just tell me what it is and I can add it to the cart or something. You're starting to play around with some of those kinds of things, or at least have them on that vision list to explore.
Yeah, it's on our roadmap, definitely, and it just gets back to the convenience factor for the customer. And they're busy in a lot of cases. They maybe, to your point, Darin, have a picture or have the product in front of them. They could snap a picture, and through image rack we could tell them what that product is and guide them to that product.
Yeah.
We're not quite there yet. We're still building out our foundational product content capabilities, but that would set us up nicely to enable that type of image recognition in the future.
That's awesome. And I know, one of the things that we talk about too, earlier in the session today and in the book, Matt, was about, taking not only the B2C, best of B2C, but also B2B, right? So B2B, traditional workflows are different, right? So you can't just throw up an e-com site that has nothing but B2C features and expect your B2B customers to buy. Right.
Yeah.
So what have you found is, different, and what have you found is important in terms of those accommodating those traditional workflows for B2B?
Yeah, there's a couple things we've been, focused on. So Punch Out is one example where, we enable a capability for a customer to start in their system, typically their ERP system, and create a purchase order or blank purchase order, and then come to our site, build a cart, and then take that order back to their system where they can go through a number of approvals on their side. So Punch Out is an area that we offer to our customers that helps them with their workflow. We also, just thinking about the EDI transactions and things that are going on in many cases, our customer will just fire off an order via EDI and they don't actually know if the product is in stock or not. And so we'll go back to them and say, I'm making the numbers up, but of the 100 products you ordered, we couldn't, 25 of them are not in stock, 75 are. So they have to now take action for those 25. So we've built an experience on the site where the customer can now resolve those orders or lines that we couldn't fill. So there's a number of capabilities they have there where they can, resolve any sort of line that was on back order or we couldn't fill it for whatever reason. And that's a specific B2B use case that we see primarily tied to the volume of EDI ordering that's going on in our world.
That was always my challenge when I made the shift, Brian, from kind of the B2C to B2B. I had a short stint where I was responsible for the B2B store on Adobe.com, another software company, selling their software to enterprises and companies all over the world. And it was this idea that in many cases, you have the e-commerce workflow pretty simple. You go through, you browse, navigate, find what you want, add it to cart, whip out your credit card B2C style or PayPal or whatever, and you purchase and you wait for the wonderful gift to arrive, at your home. But in the B2B world, it was like, well, if they purchase with, a purchase order, or maybe even you had cash on delivery or some, various payment methods, the order actually has more states, right? It kind of falls into these holding grounds where it's like, all right, we got to go verify inventory. Okay, that's good. Now, is the purchase order authorized? Is there a workflow that maybe has to go to someone else and they have to actually approve that purchase order, at which point then the order is released. And so there's a lot behind the scenes that I think a lot of folks, as they come into this space, or if they're trying to take some of the B2C ideas, they have to have some folks involved that can help them to know where some of those breakpoints are, where some of those workflows are, those like kind of extra steps, if you will, that comes with B2B, right?
Yeah, and Darin, I think that's where it's interesting too, when you connect it back to what we were talking about earlier with customer research. Ethnographic on-site visits, which we've done quite a few of, are just so vital to understand what are the steps in their process that they're going through. And then once you understand those steps, then you can figure out, how to service them online.
Interesting. We had a guest in the past and coming back from Illumina, Matt. You've met Dave Grimm, I think. And one of the things that they've done, for example, to this discussion is they've set up in their cart a way to pass the cart along, so that in their shopping cart, the cart along, so that the approvers can review it and approve it. So yeah, it's you have to do those things, and those don't exist in B2C, right? When I'm buying my jacket, I do need my wife's approval, but not always.
Yeah, that's not quite a workflow we've programmed yet.
That's right. Yeah, Darin, come on, get on that with Elastic Path, man. So this is a good discussion, guys. Related to making sure you're meeting customer expectations, Matt. One of the things you talked about was attribution, right? And how do you got all these orders that are happening on on your ERP, through your punch out and through integrations, not on the e-com site. Can you speak to us a little bit? And Darin, I think you probably have some good stuff to add here too, around, how do you know you're meeting the customer's expectation? How do you kind of make that attribution work? Meaning, it's being researched on your site, but the sale isn't tied together with, with what's happening on the site necessarily, right? So how do you make sure you're being successful? What are you measuring?
Yeah. For us, Brian, it was a question that we definitely needed to figure out, and it really gets back to like, what value does our e-commerce experience offer to our customers and to our business, and trying to build a attribution model to prove that out. Going back to how our customers are using the site, they're primarily using it to research products and do a level of self-service. Again, they're not really, majority are not converting on the site, which is okay with us. So based on how customers are using the experience around researching products, what we built, and there's a number of different models you can build. We landed on this particular model that we call a facilitated revenue model. So at the highest level, what it's based on is, we take a look at customers that log into our site and research a product, a particular material. And if they have not purchased that material for 3 months prior, but they come and they view that product in our site, and then they start purchasing that product, we count that as a facilitated revenue, or a sale that our e-commerce site facilitated. And we start to count that and show those results to our leadership team on the value that our e-commerce experience provides to our customers in our business.
Yeah, that's great. Darin, what about you? I think you had some.
Yeah, one of the things that, it's interesting because the times right now are a little bit challenging, with many folks still, working from home. And we've had this big shift, of course, where we may see a lot more people working from home in the traditional office. But we had made some pretty big strides in the industry on kind of helping to aid in this attribution by identifying who's on that browse side, who's on the purchase, and being able to stitch together some information. And so, you don't get into some of these more advanced analytics topics on your book, Brian. I'm guessing it's probably going to be in the second one. But you start to look at detecting IP addresses. We can do things like reverse lookups and actually see that, oh, you're at a company, or you're at an institution or university, et cetera. And we start to know who it is. And so even if it's someone that maybe in the buy flow, for example, they're an engineer, and they're reviewing product to design into a solution that they're building, then it can be, the purchase can be even way further out than, say, 3 months. It can be something that could come a year or two later. And so you want to stitch that together. But that's something that we have been able to do. The solutions out there, not just we Elastipath, but the companies out there providing analytics platforms, et cetera. So that's a tactic that I think is important. And then I've seen some companies that have gotten so advanced where they will use some of the personalization capabilities from the B2C world and take that information, like detecting that you're using your work computer and knowing who you are then, and then changing content on the site. So we've done a lot of personalization where, if you think the B2C use cases, it might be about showing you past purchases or what you bought, or, people bought this, bought that, those kinds of things. But this might be in a B2B context where it's changing out phone numbers, for example, from an 800 number that's going to, hit the wonderful paywall of an IVR or some big call center, dance you got to get through before you get to an agent, to the cell phone number of the sales rep that is assigned to your account, right? And awesome. You can do that with these web tools. So there's some pretty neat things that I think we finally have at our disposal that start to solve some of these challenges with attribution, because it is such a long, drawn-out purchase path.
The awesome part about B2B, and I've lived in both B2C, 17 years doing B2C e-commerce, and then the last 5 doing this stuff. And, one of the things that I love about the B2B market is you have a universe of customers that and then you're not dealing with 5-10 million individual consumers. Maybe you're dealing with 200,000 or even 10,000 customers, and the experience is it's a relationship. You know who they are. You traditionally have done business with them one-to-one through a sales team. Digital provides that extension. And I argue in the book that personalization can be even more powerful in B2B than it can be in B2C, because you're really extending and reinforcing that relationship.
Yeah, I like that you took that assertion, because I think everyone, listening and starting to, in many cases, maybe double down on their e-commerce initiatives. Outside of B2B, personalization is a lot harder, because to your point,
Yeah,
you're trying to guess amongst millions, right, who you
right.
have on the other side of the glass. And
Yep,
in the B2B context, it's like, well, hey, go get that great sales, rep or team that has a relationship with us, sit down with the copy editors and marketing and
yep.
put together some great content that will be relevant to that buyer. And you can actually do that because it's a finite
Yeah,
list.
because exactly, everyone logs in when they come. So Matt, your
Yeah.
job's easy, man. Come on. I'm
So
kidding.
easy.
I'm
Yeah.
kidding. I'm kidding. No,
Not at
it's
his
very
scale. He's doing it with the actual bees, like your book, right?
ex,
Billions in B2B.
no, he is. I know. So no, Matt, you guys have done a fantastic job. Hey, but I do believe that, Darin, and thank you for that. I think it really can be more powerful, because people have to log in. They come to your site. They're self-identifying. It's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, I think the other maybe point to add to that is looking at how you can connect all that data across the channels that the customer interacts with you in, even in B2B. So we have calls coming in to customer service, we have logins on the site, we have other data that's being collected. So that's one of the areas we're trying to focus on for our next
That's a good
fiscal years.
point, Matt.
How do we
Even
connect all that data? Yep.
even on our side, we're starting to play with e-commerce, ironically, right? With some try-buy workflows and trial of software is a big thing in the industry now. And one of the things I like is we have an analytics report that I get in my inbox each week that goes out to the whole sales force as well, and it shows by company name, nothing obscure like a cookie ID or something. It's just company name. And it says, how many views they've had, how many people came to the site.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can drill down in those reports and we can see, what content did they consume? What were they reading about? Which obviously might show some interest and intent. And then in the case of a catalog, you can actually show then what products were they looking at, et
Yep.
cetera. So that can be, I like your point there, because I think not a lot of us think about how do you share that past the web team, the e-commerce team, right? How do you get that back out to your field organizations, your channel, because they could find some value in having that at their fingertips.
Absolutely. That's a huge opportunity for us as we look at the years upcoming, is how do we take all of that data that we're collecting and field it back, service it back to the sales teams and our support teams to just be able to help them sell better. We don't compete. The site doesn't compete with our sales team. It helps them achieve their goals. So we're looking at how we can service that data back up to them.
This is an awesome discussion, guys. It actually speaks to, we had someone from Georgia Pacific on session 5, and that was a lot of what we talked about, right? It was about these aligning these channels so that the sales team works together with ecom. It's so powerful when that's done well. It's amazing. So Matt, you've had some results from all this, I guess, right? Can you share? What can you share? I know you're public, you can't share everything, you're a public company, but what kinds of things can you share?
Yeah, a couple of things I can share. So if you look at overall customer satisfaction, when we launched the site, we took a survey, and our customer sat is going up, which is good. So we're right now a little bit over a 3 on a scale of 1 to 5, and our goal is to get to 3.5 and then continue to grow from there. So we believe with the enhancements we've been making this fiscal year, that we'll achieve that goal, if not exceed it. So excited to take our next pulse survey and see where we are around customer sat. And then from the facilitated revenue model, I can't share specific numbers, but we're seeing our facilitated revenue numbers, both from a revenue and gross margin standpoint, well exceed our business case modeling that we did several years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so excited to see the financial impact and benefits that we're achieving through the facilitated revenue model.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, you guys, the scale at which you operate is pretty incredible. I know you can't share details, but
I think that's the key thing, though. I did. I think everyone could take a leap of faith, Matt. So I'm not hopefully giving away your data, but I said the B, right? You guys are doing billions online, and someone could back into that with your percentages from earlier, anyways. But I'm not giving the real number. But I think it's important to state that, because for many folks that might be tuning into this, right? And Brian, looking at your book, that is often a retort, a question, a challenge that comes up, right? It says, but my business, we're if we were to even get 10% to this digital channel, it would be B, it'd be billions, right? And our products, they're so expensive, no one's going to do that transaction online. And I like that you got Illumina to actually acknowledge that, no, actually, while we might have started off with the consumables, yeah, we're selling multi-million-dollar pieces of equipment over the e-commerce
They
site.
are. Yep,
And
they are.
that's what the buyers are doing, right? So that's real now. That is not, everyone thought no one will sell cars online, no one will sell these large consideration items online. Yes, now you can sell major medical equipment, right? Giant tractors from Caterpillar, whatever, right? It doesn't matter how many zeros come after that. Hopefully your UI fits it well, but other than that, it's real.
Right.
And I like that you got some of that out there, Brian, because I think
Yeah.
that's still a concern for a lot of folks that are either very new, haven't started yet, or thinking about doubling down, right? That's their first thing is this, are people really going to do this transaction? And
Yeah.
you had some good examples there. It's like,
It's
yes,
real, man. It's real. It's not just about shoes and books and music anymore, guys.
right.
20 years ago. And yeah, I just a quick story. It's funny. I used to work with a company called Guidance, and doing IT work. I was doing a lot. I still do a little bit of strategy work with them, but they started a site for Foot Locker. I think it was 1998 or 7 or something. And at the time, it was in the closet, in the corner of the office, and the CEO at the time's like, "We're never going to sell any shoes online." And I wasn't there, but I heard the stories, and the CEO is not there anymore. It's not the reason why. This was years ago, but now, I mean, I think they did $2 or $3 billion in shoes last year. I mean, it's incredible. And so, I mean, yeah, this is ingrained behavior, guys. But I think the key is, to your point, Darin, that Illumina example, it was also about the channels working together. So when they get $1 million or whatever plus shopping cart close on their website, a lot of times that customer has been, it's a whole journey, and the sales force has been in touch with them. They've learned about the products. It's digital. It's not digital. But they're all working together. So flexibility is really important. And actually, Matt, I wanted to ask you a little bit about, you guys. I mean, you've got so many. I know your business reasonably well. I know you have a lot of systems and other things and legacy, and you're a big complex company. You're the 15th largest, I think, in the galaxy. I don't know, but tell us about different concepts. We talk a lot, and Darin, this is close to your heart, headless commerce and other things. Have you guys explored kind of how do you build flexibility in? Have you looked at headless commerce, for example?
Yeah, it's a great question, Brian. Yeah, flexibility is key for us. As you mentioned, we're a large organization, about 40,000 employees, and we've grown through acquisition in a lot of cases. So as you acquire more and more technology, and sometimes as you acquire, you don't always stitch that technology together in some cases for whatever reason. So we've had to make sure that we are thinking about, as we think about the customer experience, we need to think about how we build things in a flexible way. Examples of how we've built our experience, we're very much API driven. So we have services that have been built that will go into our source system to pull out product information, price and availability, contract information, which is big in our world. So we have a very much a services-based, API-based architecture where we're offering data out, and then our e-commerce experience consumes that. We're really just a front end to, a good front end to exposing a lot of the information that our customer is looking for through the services we build. And so as we continue to evaluate different technologies that are out there, PIM is an example, product information management system is on our radar here for this upcoming year. We're looking at ways in which we can identify really good source systems that can hold that information, but then disseminate it out to different consumers of it. Our site being one of them, Amazon could be another one, and just other applications or experiences that our customers are using.
Yeah, and Darin, do you have anything to add to that? I know.
Yeah, I mean, I think when Elastipath really pioneered this idea of headless commerce back in 2011, 2012. And I was actually a almost customer and later partner in those early days. And it was this idea that you had to expose a lot of this as an API instead of a web template for a web page. And, in the early days, I think we thought it was going to be a number of these other channels, maybe television, social was clearly coming up as a potential channel to purchase in, and there was a lot of B2C use cases that drove the early demand to tearing the front end off of the e-commerce storefront and really exposing all those capabilities, as Matt mentioned, as APIs, so then you can create the experience that you need. But now, if you think about some of the B2B use cases and the technologies that have come forward, what I'm most bullish on is looking at some of the demand for voice. Looking at the what Alexa has done from Amazon, how it's training people in their homes to engage with a voice bot, with Siri and Google doing the same thing, and all of the kind of plethora of services that you can take advantage of out there. I spent a little bit of time in the Internet of Things space at Intel a number of years ago, and that was one of the things that we started hearing about. And even at Elasticpath, we have a couple customers that actually asked to have the person that was out in the field, that could be an engineering type person, it could be a sales rep type person, but they're oftentimes out in a truck, et cetera. And they wanted to be able to talk to their truck. They wanted to be able to ask, do I have this part in the back before they go rummaging around, or from inside the facility. So when you start to look at some of these use cases that we're all going to, begin enabling and want to enable, Granger's done some neat things on the vending machine side, with, the safety boots and all kinds of things where they can put that product in your own facility. And what Cardinal Health, you guys have some things with some novel, vending type options. As soon as you get into those use cases, you can't bring the website down into there. And so it really demands that you have thought through an API layer and expose that data from all your systems so that you can create any experience you want. That may be a voice experience. It may be a button. Right? A reorder button on that device. Those kinds of things are what's kind of creating some of this demand. So for those, hearing those headless concept, it's kind of, the original where it came from was simply taking the website head off it, but you still have to have a head. It will just be, one of these other modalities.
It's awesome. And Darin, that's an awesome advertisement for our last session, actually, which is our digital future. And we're going to get into a lot of that stuff in our next episode of the virtual book tour. So Matt, thank you guys. Great concept here. Great discussion. Question for you. So, I ask all of our virtual book tour participants guests this, and Darin, I'd love your opinion too. If you had one piece of advice, you can take two if you want, but one piece of advice for a CEO or a leader who is just starting this. I mean, they're at the early stages, and 50% of B2B companies don't have e-commerce guys still, right? So that's half of our audience, probably, maybe more. What piece of advice would you give to that CEO or that executive about getting started if they really have nothing they've invested in yet?
Yeah, it's a really good question, Brian. A couple of pieces of advice I would give. One would be, as we've talked about on this video and call a lot, is understand your customer. So do your customer research, understand your different customer segments, understand how they would or would not use an e-commerce experience. In many cases, they will. So it's understanding your customer, what their needs are. I think you got to start there. And then I think the second piece, as you start to learn more about your customers' needs, is really working on establishing a good strategy and vision for the experience. What are you going to offer to your customers? Which customer segments are you going to service, and how are you going to service them? And then I'd say probably last but not least, there's many other things we could talk through, but is building out a team of seasoned experts who can deliver on the e-commerce strategy and vision. And just a quick story. When I started 5 years ago, I had 2 people on my team to service the scale and breadth of customers that we're talking about. So I have been working on last 5 years building out a team, and just under 10 people now. Still not enough, but I've had a lot of luck pulling in folks from retail, going back to the B2C conversation we had, folks who understand merchandising and search and product content and user experience design, analytics as an example as well. And also establishing a product owner who wakes up and thinks about the experience every day and how we can connect with our customers. So the team piece is really, really important in order to deliver on the vision.
Yeah, and Matt, having met many of them, you've done a good job hiring there. It's great that you pulled from B2C. What about you, Darin? What advice do you have?
I would echo and if not amplify what Matt said around get to know what your customers wanting to do. I think there's still that perception that there isn't the demand for this, right?
Mhm.
And so, as much as it sounds like getting into the weeds, I've seen some CEOs be real successful with participating and getting into looking at things like, some of those replay analytics tools, like a Hotjar or something that are, can be free to begin with, and you can take a look at. And also, some of the comments coming through CSAT processes. Some have put on, there's some various, eye perceptions, lots of these little small tools that can grab comments, little MPS scores things. But the key is the comments and reading them and digesting it. And maybe if they have a process where they, read things in quarters or whatever, it's pulling that information in and really seeing that and hearing that the customers want them to be able to engage in that way. But I think you probably first I felt reading your book, Brian, I felt like there was almost too much sense of urgency. And as I got into it, I realized and I thought about the changes, I think that probably is still the best advice is like, do you really want to be the Sears of your industry? Like you got to move fast. And with
Yeah.
everything happening this year, market share is shifting, right? So yeah, I think that's probably the right advice at this point is go.
Well, yeah, and actually, it's interesting you say that, Darin. One of the first case studies in the book is mid-market distributor. It doesn't just apply, Matt, to trillion-dollar companies.
Yep.
These concepts apply to mid-market distributors and manufacturers. The first case study is a company called Petra. They're a mid-market company, and they got into e-commerce 15, 16 years ago, and they've seen the benefits of it all the way through. And the key point of that case study is the CEO saying, "I did not have all the information, but I acted," and it's about acting, right? It's about moving ahead, and it's a little bit about overcoming fear. And so, yeah, that's why the first chapter is called "The Time Is Now," right? So, guys, this has been really fantastic. I appreciate both of you so much, and really your input is so right on, and I think it'll really resonate with our audience. So I want to thank you both, guys. Thank you again so much. Again, my name is Brian Beck. I'm the author of the book. My contact information is here. I also the managing partner of a company called Insiba, helping companies with their Amazon programs. You can go to Billion Dollar B2B Ecommerce to learn more about the book and about how we can help you with your strategy for e-commerce. Matt's information is here, Director of Ecom, Cardinal Health, his LinkedIn, and Darin, his LinkedIn as well. I want to thank them both very much for participating. So we have one more session left, everyone. Our session 8 is Our Digital Future, and we talked a little bit today about Illumina. They're going to be my guest again, second time in the virtual book tour. That session will air at 8 a.m. On the 16th of September, and that's the final session of the tour. As I mentioned, all the sessions are available on demand. If you have questions, you can email Meg Purcell. Her email is there at Elastic Path, or myself. And I hope that you join us for the next session, and good luck in your digital transformation. We'll see you next time.